What's up, CDL fans? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over the pickems for week 2 of the CDL. Last week, as you can see here on the screen, it did not go very well for me. I got 7 total points, only got 3 out of 10 series correct, which you can also see on the side of the overlay. Pretty bad. There were a lot of upsets and stuff, and I don't think a lot of people had great weekends, but I specifically did absolutely horrible. So we're at 3 out of 10 so far on the year. Let me know what you're at in your predictions so far. But you know, we're just gonna hop right into these week 2 predictions, and we're gonna see who we think are gonna come out on top. Starting it off with Paris versus Boston. I do think these are evenly-ish matched teams. I do think Boston is a better team overall, hence why I'm gonna give them the win. I'm gonna give them 3-1 over Paris. I just think Paris is the weakest team in the league. I do think they can come out and surprise us like they did in their first match against FaZe last weekend. I'm just leaning more towards Boston for the series. Then we move on into Seattle versus Minnesota. I think Seattle's going to win this 3-1. Seattle's just a better team. Minnesota is good, don't get me wrong. We only saw 1 match out of them, so we're not really sure. But Seattle looks super strong, and I do think they will take these. I honestly think Seattle will probably win all the respawns, and Minnesota will win the 1 S&D during game 2. But I think if this goes game 5, Minnesota has a chance to win this. But I'm going to give this to Seattle just because of how strong they're looking. Then we move into our last match of the day on Friday the 11th. We have LAG versus Toronto. LAG does look pretty solid. Toronto also looks pretty good. For me personally, I'm going to give Toronto the 3-2 victory. I think if it comes down to a game 5, Toronto's definitely a stronger S&D team, and I feel like if it comes to a game 5, Toronto's probably going to win like 6-2. I don't think it'll be too much of a contest. I think LAG is a very strong respawn team because they have players. All their players can slay, and especially if ASIM plays how he did at the last game they just played against NYSL. This team can be very good at respawn, but I just think they're going to lack in the S&D, especially against Toronto. Now we move into our first match of Saturday the 12th. We have London versus Minnesota, which I personally think is going to be a really good series. I'm going with maybe something a lot of people aren't going to be going with. I'm going with a Minnesota victory 3-2. Yes, London is a really good team. Minnesota's obviously also really good. Minnesota's definitely better S&D than London is. And I think that this is going to go game 5, and I think Minnesota, where their strong point is obviously teamwork and then search and destroy, I think they're going to take this game 5. I think this is going to be a slight upset. Definitely Minnesota's not as favored as London, but I'm going Minnesota ROKKR for this series. Then we move into Optic Texas versus Paris. Honestly, like, it kind of is hard to go with Optic, especially after what we saw, but I don't think Optic looked terrible. I think they just have a lot of problems closing out maps, but I'm going to give Optic the victory here 3-1. I just think they're still, obviously they're a stronger team than Paris. And I think with this only being this being their only game of the weekend, I think they're going to come out really motivated to get this win, especially after being 0-2. But I just think overall Optic is just a stronger roster. Obviously, Paris might win the S&D since Optic seems pretty trash at search and destroy right now. So I'm going to give Optic a 3-1. Then we have Boston versus FaZe. Honestly, I don't think this is going to be much of a contest. I think FaZe will get it 3-1. I think Boston will probably squeak out a map, but I don't know. I just don't feel confident about Boston going up against, you know, this FaZe roster. Unless like Methods or Nero really pop off, I think they're really going to struggle. Not only do you have the best SMG duo in the league on FaZe, you also have Celium and Arcides, who are one of the better AR duos in the league, and Methods and Nero had they struggled over this last opening weekend, so I think they're really going to get fried by Celium and Arcides. So that's why I'm going 3-1 FaZe. Then we have Florida versus LAT. I do think this is going to be a good series, and I'm going to give it the way of the Thieves in a 3-2 fashion. I think they'll take this in that game 5 S&D. I do think Florida is a solid roster. I think FaZe will be more on par this weekend than they were this past weekend during opening weekend. I honestly think this is going to be a good series. I think this is going to be a fun match to watch. I think other than the London ROKKR series, this will be the second best match of the day on Saturday, and I think it would be a good way to end off that day. Now we move into our final day of week 2. We have Sunday, February 13th. We start off with LAG versus London. I'm going to give it to London 3-2. It kind of hurts me to not give LAG a victory this weekend, but they're going up against 2 of the better teams in the league. And I think they're going to go game 5 in both these series. I do think London will take this. Like I said, I think LAG is not as good in search and destroy as a lot of other teams, and for that reason I want to give London in this victory. I move into Florida versus Toronto. This is one of my big stretch predictions. I'm going 3-0 Toronto. I think Toronto is obviously really good, and I think they're going to be even better this weekend, especially coming off that loss that they had against Seattle, and then coming off a win against LAG hopefully this weekend, and then going into Florida. I think they're just going to dominate. I really think they outmatch Florida in just about every way, and I'm going to give them the 3-0. And then we move into the last match of the weekend, which I think could be one of the better matches, but I'm going to give it 3-0 to LAT. Another stretch prediction here. Another, big time prediction. Honestly, I just think NYSL looks really, really bad. I think other than Paris, NYSL looks like the worst team in the league currently. They might have it fixed, but I just think the Thieves are really a better squad than NYSL. And the Subliners have a tough schedule. They have a tough schedule, and I don't think it's going to get any easier against LA Thieves. I think this is going to be a quick 3-0. And that'll do it for my week 2 predictions. Let me know what team you think is gonna surprise this weekend, what team you think is gonna go undefeated. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this. Drop a like if you did, and subscribe for more CDL content. And with that being said, I'll see you all in the next one.